Hello there. I'm Nadine Wilson, the MLA for Saskatchewan Rivers. I now sit as an independent. I left about 2 months ago from the Saskatchewan Party, and that, I believe, is why people are reaching out to me. Donna Barr works with me, and she's a remarkable lady who has some great life experiences, and she's such an asset to my office because of the numerous phone calls we're receiving. We've had so many invitations to come out and talk to people. We're going to try this today, this new social media, and we hope it works for you, and we'd like to address some of your questions, but we also want to tell our story. And it's a story of despair for Saskatchewan, but it's also a story of hope, because there's more and more people like us who are waking up and seeing the Canadian Charter of Rights and freedoms being eroded. And we want Saskatchewan to be a great place to live and to work. And we want you to work. And we've heard so many stories. So I think we're here today just to share some of these stories. And Donna, what do you think about what is happening at our office of Saskatchewan Rivers?
Well, I'll tell you, the office has never been busier. We have calls coming in constantly that each person has a unique story to tell, but there's a common thread through all of them. And that common thread is that they feel that they are second-class citizens and that they don't have a right to fully participate in society anymore, even though they may still be paying full taxes. And one of the things that really is disturbing is when I pick up the phone and somebody begins talking and then they break down in tears. Mm-hmm. And you can tell that they are looking for help, and there's no one to go to anymore. They can't ask the government anymore to help them because the government has told them what they must do in order to be in this society. And even if they have some incredibly compelling reasons why they shouldn't or they want to delay, regardless of whatever their reasons are, they are being told they must do something or they can't be a full-class citizen. So what we've done is, intended or not, created a two-class society in Saskatchewan. And that's the biggest thing that I'm hearing. Mm-hmm. And they just feel like there's not a lot of hope, except that they have one other message that they want the government to hear, and they want unity in this province. They want to restore what's been broken. Mm-hmm. The faith that they had in the government, they would love nothing better than if the government reversed many of these harmful decisions and, restored those rights and freedoms in terms of employment and just do the right thing. They want the government to do the right thing.
And that's so true, Donna. We're receiving all the phone calls here at our constituency office because we're hearing the other MLAs, the other elected officials are not responding. Mm-hmm. When I'm in Regina, Donna's here at the office and she's answering as many phone calls and emails as she can receive. So we want you to know you're not alone. We hear you and we're with you. And the Legislative Assembly is done now.
Until the spring.
Mm-hmm. So there was a controversial bill, Bill 70, that came up that I spoke on. It was regarding the security of the Legislative Assembly. Probably if you're in Regina, you should email or try calling Minister Christine Tell, Minister of Corrections, Public Safety and Policing, because she is trying to lock down the Legislative Assembly, the People's Building, the building that belongs to you. And this Bill 70 is trying to be snuck in very, very quickly. Mm-hmm. So I actually spoke on it, in front of the sergeant of arms and all the other sergeants or security guards.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful men and women who protect us. So I said, if they need more security, please give them the security. However, it fell on deaf ears. So your MLA, Christine Tell, you should be addressing this to.
Right. And one of the things I noticed about that conversation, and whether it was you or the opposition asking the government, why? Why are you introducing this bill that will reduce the sergeant of arms to just a ceremonial position? Mm-hmm. And we know, and most of us never heard of a sergeant at arms until 2014, when Mr. Vickers in Ottawa literally saved the House of Commons, along with, I know he was careful to point out it wasn't just him, it was the other security people in that building that basically protected those people. And in the last week or so, last couple of weeks, I heard the opposition asking the minister, and I heard you ask the minister, were there threats? Why are you doing this? And there was no answer. The closest Ms. Tell came to giving an answer was to say, it's 2021. Well, that's not an answer.
No.
That is not an answer. We would like to know, the people of Saskatchewan would like to know, what has compelled the government to bring in their own security that will fall under the Ministry of Corrections, Policing and Public Safety. What compelled you to do that? And the people of Saskatchewan deserve answers to that.
And that's why I think all of you in Regina should be trying to correspond or contact Miss Christine Tell. Also were the isolation centers.
Secure isolation centers,
the detention centers. And a lot of people don't know about those. I asked some questions in the House about the detention centers, and they were real. And I was wondering how much a month do they cost, and how long do you stay there, and how do you get there? This is not a good path that the Saskatchewan government is going down, so we're always asking people to contact your MLA, contact your premier, and continue to ask these questions.
Yeah, the other, some of the other things, and I think we should address how the policies of needing to be vaccinated for certain lines of employment. Mm-hmm. And while the government declared that all provincial employees needed that, then it was a trickle-down effect where many businesses felt that they had to follow that same thing, because if they wanted to do work with the provincial government, they had to follow that mandate as well. Mm-hmm. And none of this, as far as I know, was discussed in the House. None of it was ever put through legislation that this could be done. Right. And I believe that's why they have to have an emergency order to do that.
Yes, we've got that state of emergency order that is till the end of January. I don't know about any of you, but I don't feel that we're in a state of emergency. What I feel is that we're restricted, that our rights and freedoms are taken away. But the pandemic, however you want to think about it, it's there and it's used to control us. And as Saskatchewan people, we have to hold the line. We cannot go down this path of madness any longer. And I know it's a difficult job to do, but I'm praying for all of us, and please pray for our leaders, that they will see the power is in the people of the province.
There is one other thing I'd like to talk about today, and that is this week, just as session was ending, a news release was put out, and the government is announcing how they're going to address the backlog of elective surgeries, how they're going to expand ICU, and those are good and noble things to do. And I can't help but wonder, because another piece of paper was brought to my attention. last week at almost the same time, and I was quite surprised by it personally. But the government's own report shows that in the year 2019-2020, that we actually had more ICU visits and more hospital discharges than in the year of COVID, which is 2020 to 2021. So throughout the last year, we've been told that these restrictions are necessary to make sure that, we're not overwhelmed because we've got this pandemic and we're being overrun in our ICUs. And I have no doubt that the good people that work in healthcare, anyone that's been in a hospital knows how hard they work. But these numbers don't back up what we've been told. I believe.
So would this be called fear-mongering?
You have to think, yes, propaganda? It is. Like, why don't these numbers, why did we have more people in hospital a year before COVID than the year of COVID? Now, some could argue that that's because people were staying at home more than they were, and maybe, there wasn't as much sickness, but even so, then how does that justify forcing people to take medical procedures or lose their job? Because our hospitals
Does that grow a stronger, healthier Saskatchewan? I think the credibility here is being spoke to by Donna, that there's something wrong with our healthcare system. Maybe it needs overvamping, but we can certainly do better.
Right, and we always knew that it's a struggle to keep enough staff in a hospital. Everywhere in Canada struggles with that, having enough staff for the number of surgeries needed, particularly elective surgeries. But we've always, as a province, as a community, banded together, and we understand it, and we work with the system, and we don't get cranky. we just say, well, we know they're doing their best. But now we wonder about, are they doing their best, or are they just trying to keep us in fear? And the biggest question, and I hear this over and over and over, what is the end game? What is the end game? Some will say, is the end game in 2023, because the vaccinations that are out right now actually cannot be used unless there is an emergency order in place. So do they have to keep you and me scared so they can keep that emergency order going?
And as we know, fear is one of the most strongest emotions. You keep us in fear, unstable, we don't know what's happening day to day. The control over our lives. And as Saskatchewan people with independent critical thinking, we are wondering, what is the end game?
Right.
And you and I don't know. So that's another thing that I need all of you to continue to do, is to ask your leaders questions, whether it be municipal, provincial, or federal leaders. Of course, a lot of you are wondering about the provincial leaders, and that's who does the state of emergency health orders. So those are the questions you have to ask them, and be firm.
Right.
As I know you can't be.
So this is something we would like your participation in, and that is just about everybody has a phone. We would like to know, what are the questions you want to ask the government? And if you would be willing to just take a little video and say, hey, Scott Moe, hey, Christine Tell, hey, whichever minister, or just the government in general, I want to know, and state your question, and then email us that little video. And we will make every effort. Nadine will take that and bring it to their attention, and then the government will know it's you, the people, that want to know these things.
Because I have asked these questions in the Assembly, in the Saskatchewan Legislative Assembly, and I am not getting anywhere with these questions. I'm getting political runaround. I ask, what are the effects of the children? What is the accountability? Who is going to be accountable? And of course, none of these questions are being answered. Sitting as an independent, I have the freedom of asking a lot of these questions, member statements, written questions, and I will continue to ask until we have some satisfaction, accountability, and transparency of this current government.
Anything else on your mind right now?
I understand there are a lot of people in Regina who want to know questions answered. They want their questions answered. And so we encourage you to keep up the fight. We are here north of Prince Albert, so if you ever come up to our beautiful lakes and our Prince Albert National Park, we are along the highway number 2, and we welcome you to come in and have a coffee with us, and we would love to visit with you and see what your stories are. I know everyone has a story of how this pandemic has affected your lives, your work, your play, and your family life. I know it's been a stressful time. And so we just want to encourage you that you're not alone. We are here for you, and we're going to continue to fight. So we wish you happy holidays, Merry Christmas. We want you to be with your loved ones, and we're hoping that for a lot of peace in the new year. So with that, thank you so much for the invitation. I know I can't answer all of your questions, but we are here for you, and you call us anytime.
You
Thank
bet.
you.
Thank you.